In episode number 2 of our quick start guide, I'm going to quickly talk about titles, and at the end of the video, we'll talk about claims in Crusader Kings 3. This is something that a lot of people have been asking about on my getting started guide that I posted with the launch of the console version of Crusader Kings 3. I do have much larger videos or larger form videos covering both of these topics, which you can find in my Crusader Kings 3 playlist linked in the upper right corner. So if you want that full in-depth breakdown of each of these subjects, go ahead and take a look at those or any other mechanic you might be lost and confused on. I unfortunately do not have the console version of the game yet, so I'll be doing this on PC, but it'll be effectively the same for the exception of navigating the UI. If you end up finding this video helpful, please don't forget to drop a like, comment, or subscribe on your way out. I cover plenty of CK3 or Crusader Kings 3 content with all my guides and quick start videos linked at the end of the video and in the pinned comment. But let's get started. To open up, we're going to have a conversation about titles, and this is a portion of the game that I think that the tutorial doesn't really hit very well. It's kind of hard to understand in the very first portion. Personally, I was super frustrated, so let me go through this with you. This is the way the game looks right now for me for the British Isles. But if I press a button here, I get to see each and every county. Now, the county is the lowest title that you can play in Crusader Kings 3. But every single county is made up of individual baronies. You can see these little highlighted areas. Those are individual baronies. Now, above the county is the duchy. And there are multiple counties that make up each individual duchy. So I'm using the filter that shows you the de jure or de jure titles, where they all are on the map. So these individual duchies, multiple duchies, then make up a kingdom. And you guessed it, multiple kingdoms make up an empire. So you can kind of see how that all kind of gets put together. If I press this button, it jumps back to the way that this looks right now. So if I look at Munster right here, it shows me that this character has both of these regions. But of course, the Duchy of Munster is only right here. If I press this button, it shows me that Munster owns the Duchy of Munster and a portion of the Duchy of Ulster. So that's how these filters kind of come into play, because it gives you an idea of what the de jure titles are and where they are on the map. But it's something you will learn to understand as you play the game a little bit more, but it's important to understand too how these titles work, because each one of these titles will increase a number of things for you. So I'm going to bring back up the UI. So right now I'm playing an older save from a much earlier version of the game. And so you might see some things like, oh, my guy's about to die. Don't worry about it. It's just the save itself. But some things that these titles will increase are stuff like your domain limit up here, the number of knights you can have in your court, the number of regiments you can have in your actual military. This would be your number of regiments. Each one gets more and more as you progress through the rank system. Also, the schemes that are being used against you, you'll get more resistance towards them, and so on and so forth, all the way up to Emperor, where you get stuff like increased vassal limit, which can be seen here in the realm. The very bottom, you can see your domains, your limits, everything like that, your realm size right here. That's also very important because all this stuff kind of plays into your primary title. Your primary title is essentially what you are known as. I am the King of Sicily because my primary title here is the King of Sicily. Now, every single culture will have a different name for the Baron, the Count, the Duke, the King, the Emperor, whatever it is. More often than not, King and Emperor typically stay the same. But if I take, for example, Ireland here, this is a duchy. If I click on it, we see we have Petty King Murshad. So basically what you want to always look at are these little crowns above the flag. That is a ducal title or a duchy. This right here is for the county. If I were to zoom in and click on one of these, you'd see the barony, and if I, well, that guy's at war. This is the, let me see, this is the actual holder here, the mayor. That's your little symbol right there for a baron. It's kind of a little crown. And obviously you can see mine for the king. It's this little, well, king's crown. And if I were to go take a look over here at the Byzantine Emperor, we can see the Byzantine Emperor has a specific denotation for emperor title. So that's how you would actually recognize them. Don't really look at the name because that can be confusing depending upon the culture, what you're playing. If you're playing as a feudal, a clan, or a tribal government, or if you're playing as, say, any of the Nordic race or the Norse civilizations up here, if you're playing over here in the Levant, whatever it is, everyone's got different distinctions and names for things, but that's how that really kind of overall works. But titles themselves can then be assigned or revoked. So we're going to go ahead and bring back up the Kingdom tab here, and I'm going to go into Vassals. So if I look at one of my vassals here, right click on him, right click again for the PC. Unfortunately, I'm sure of what it is for the console. We get two big things here for the titles: granting a title or revoking a title. So you can grant titles, and you can grant count or ducal titles, basically whatever you've got underneath you. If you grant someone the same level of title as yourself, so let's say I had another kingdom title and I were to grant that to another character, it makes them independent. I'll get a warning that says, hey, granting this character this title would make them independent. But I can give them a ducal title or a county, whatever it is, multiple titles, however much I want. But keep in mind that if you do this, look at my domain size right here, 6 of 6. Every time you do, it will come out of your domain. So you will receive less direct taxes and levies for any domain you no longer hold in your name. So that's how that works as far as granting titles. And then the titles themselves can be revoked in the same manner. So we'll go back to that same character and we'll look at revoke title. I click this and it gives me a number of things that are going to happen, and also that it has a chance to either be accepted or declined. I can revoke the title of this individual and he can go, nope, that's not going to happen. And then I would look at this menu. So on accept, meaning that when I press revoke title, he accepts this, and we can see that he has a 15% chance to accept it. By hovering over, we get all the modifiers that would increase or decrease this percentage of chance. But on accept, it says this is an act of tyranny, causing your subject to lose 20 public opinion of you. The way tyranny works is it applies to your vassals, all of your courtiers, everyone in your realm, that is. And it is basically a negative opinion modifier that gradually deteriorates or decays over time. Tyranny, for example, would give you 20 negative opinion with your entire realm that decreases at 0.25 a month. So you can see that this is going to take you, 4 times 20? So you're looking at 80 months to get rid of 20 tyranny. Also, this is some of the things that are going to happen here. Count Abelard here is going to get a pressed claim on the county we're revoking. He loses 80 opinion of you for 10 years. This is different than tyranny. He's immediately going to lose this. So his opinion is 26. Minus that by 80, and that's what his opinion is going to be if he accepts this title revocation. Then he becomes your rival, and the control level in the county will change by -30. You can use a hook, which would basically guarantee this goes through. And then there's also the chance that he could decline this. If he declines this, he will start a war with you, a rebellion. He'll lose 40 opinion of you because it's basically kind of goes through an attempt to arrest him, and you have rightful imprisonment. He'll lose an additional 80 opinion, and then these individuals will join his rebellion. So revoking a title is not usually recommended. The way you would really take advantage of revoking a title is if you have this individual imprisoned, because if they're imprisoned, then you can revoke titles from them, and it makes it much easier because they cannot start rebellions or anything of the sort. They have to accept they're in prison. So that's the best way if you want to say curtail a specific vassal that's really trying to abuse their power. But that covers all of our titles really quickly on a top-down view. Again, I have a much larger in-depth video linked in the upper right corner. Let's now switch on to claims, because we did say that this guy does get a pressed claim. But one thing I do want to talk about before we switch over to claims is you can see my character here has a number of county titles, 2 ducal, or duke titles, and then 1 king title. So something to take note of. Kings and emperors can only have a maximum of 2 duchy titles. I think it is ducal, not ducal. So 2 ducal titles. A duke can have as many duchies as he wants. They're going to be split up upon succession. Don't worry, I'll do a quick start video on that. But still, it's worth noting that as a king, you're limited to 2 duchy titles. Moving into claims, this is how you are going to interact a lot with the other nations in Crusader Kings 3, especially if you are playing as a feudal nation in Christendom, because you will use these claims to enact war upon each other and expand your lands. So let's go ahead and bring back up the character profile over here for King Robert, and we can see all the titles that we just talked about, right? Well, depending on the character, you will have one of 3 claims in this location if you have any. Right now, I have got 0 claims to any lands, so I have got no little denotations. But if I click on any of these titles, we'll click on the Duchy of Apulia, and I look at this right here, I see claimants. So we're going to click this. So these are all the individuals that have a claim to the title Duchy of Apulia. So you're going to see 2 claims in this section. First is a pressed claim, which is considered legally strong and are inherited as unpressed claims by the children of the claimant, meaning that this character has such a strong claims on these lands that if they were to die, that claim will pass to their child. Remember, you use these claims to enact war on one another. So this pressed claim will degrade to an unpressed claim. Now, historically speaking, an unpressed claim was, as it says here, legally tenuous. Basically, what they would do with this is like, 9 generations ago, our 2 fathers talked about giving this land upon birth, but it never happened, so I have an unpressed claim. They're super in the gray as far as actually if they're being legally binding. It was how nations in Europe would actually fight each other in the Middle Ages without being excommunicated by the Pope. But this unpressed claim will not progress to any children or anything like that. It is uninheritable. So you have to use it in that character's lifetime in order to get the territory that they've got this claim to. So, for example, if Prince Guy were to die, he would lose this unpressed claim. Whereas Richard here, if he were to die, his children would get unpressed claims. Now, the third type of claim is an implicit claim. So you can see this little difference in shield right here, this little solid shield. So implicit claims are claims that are given to eligible children on all titles held by their parents. If a parent loses a title, the child's implicit claim will be removed too. So how that really works is, I am an eligible child because I have not been disinherited. If you disinherit your child, they lose all of the implicit claims that they had. But the implicit claim means that, like it says here, as long as I have that claim on death, if the child does not inherit that title, he has a claim to it. For example, Prince Roger here, let's say he inherits the Kingdom of Sicily, inherits the Duchy of Apulia, but does not inherit the Duchy of Calabria. He will then have a claim on that duchy. So basically, anytime they don't directly get the title, they will then have a claim to the title to try and take it in their name. It's why we get so many wars in between children when a liege dies and children take over. And so to close this section out, I want to talk about how you would actually create these claims. Probably the most popular one, and the one that the actual tutorial tells you, is going into your council, going over to your chaplain, your cleric, your whatever it is, an archbishop in this case, and pressing this, fabricate a claim on a county. Now, depending upon the actual learning skill of this character, you have the chance of actually getting an unpressed claim on not just the county, but the duchy as a whole, allowing you to get far more locations within that realm. Another way to do it here is being the dynasty head. So let's go ahead and click my character, click his dynasty, and I am the dynasty head of the dynasty Hauteville. So I'm going to click on my living members, and I'm going to look at Count William of Foggia. I'm going to right click on him, and you can see in diplomacy, if I expand this, I have this. Claim title, Dynasty Head Interaction. Claim a title by Count William for yourself. I would press this button and I would take it if I had the renown to do so. I don't, I only have 5. You would get then an unpressed claim, meaning it does not transfer to your children if you die. So hugely important. Another way to do so, though, is going into lifestyle, going over here into learning, and down the scholar tree, we have sanctioned loopholes. You can use the buy claim interaction. So basically, you would use piety to buy claims. Counties cost 250, duchies cost 500, kingdoms cost 1,000, and then empire titles or emperor titles cost 2,000 piety to buy a claim on them. And it would then give you an unpressed claim. Again, it will not transfer to your children. So those are some of the big ways you can actually use and get claims. Another way too is if you have got a certain title, like for example here, if I look at the Kingdom of Sicily, it encompasses these lands, yet I don't actually have them, right? So that gives me a claim on these lands that I could use to declare war with. So you could use this to actually get the portion of land if you have a specific county. And you can also do this too on your own vassals. Like let's say you've got a vassal who's just kind of running ramshot on your lands, and you have a title above him. You can actually get the title from him. You can actually like pull it away as part of a claim liege title interaction, which would pull an unpressed claim to you. That is how your claims work. That's how your titles work. If you have any other questions about this, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. You guessed it, I do have a video that goes into claims and combat linked in the upper right corner. Our next video that we're going to be doing in this quick start series is on succession, and you'll be seeing that coming out tomorrow. So as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.